Welcome, restless souls, to Carman's Crypt. I'm Antiquarian, keeper of forgotten tales and curator of nightmares. You've wandered into my domain, where each week I unearth a fresh horror from the depths of human imagination. In these darkened halls, stories wait like hungry shadows. Each tale we've collected whispers of terrors both ancient and new. From crumbling mansions where something skitters behind the walls, to that strange text message you received at 3 a.m. from a number that shouldn't exist. So gather close. The candles are lit, the shadows grow long, and the witching hour is upon us. Are you prepared to face what lurks in the darkest recesses of Carman's Crypt? Lock your doors, still your nerves, and remember, here, every fear comes to life. This is Carman's Crypt. Your sanctuary of scares awaits. Mara had always felt more at home among books than people. Growing up with parents who moved every few years for work, books became her constant companions. While other kids formed friendships that would last years, Mara formed relationships with characters who would never leave her. By adulthood, she had developed a career as a literary researcher, specializing in rare texts and forgotten authors, a job that suited her preference for solitude and deep dives into obscure corners of literary history. Her small apartment in the city was lined floor to ceiling with bookshelves, everything from dog-eared paperbacks to first editions she'd splurged on when her research stipends allowed. Some people collected shoes or vinyl records. Mara collected stories. It was on a rainy Tuesday when she found herself in Dixon Street Antiquarian Books, a cramped shop tucked between a coffee house and a vintage clothing store in the oldest part of the city, the kind of place most people walked past without noticing, which was precisely why Mara loved it. She had been researching a paper on 19th century supernatural fiction when Mr. Dixon called her about a new acquisition she might find interesting. The shop smelled of dust, leather, and the particular mustiness that comes from paper aging slowly over decades. Bells jingled softly as she entered, but Mr. Dixon was nowhere to be seen. "Hello?" she called, shaking rain from her umbrella. "Mr. Dixon?" No answer came from the maze of stacks. This wasn't unusual. The old man was often lost in his own inventory, cataloging or simply reading in some forgotten corner. Mara made her way toward the back of the shop where the rarer items were kept. That's when she saw it. A single book lay on the counter, set apart from the others. The leather cover was cracked with age. Its once rich burgundy faded to the color of dried blood. Gold leaf that might have once adorned the spine had flaked away, leaving only traces of shimmer in the deepest crevices. "The binding," she read aloud, running her fingers over the embossed title. The leather felt warm under her touch, almost alive. "Ah, Ms. Rhodes, you found it." Mara startled. Mr. Dixon had appeared silently beside her, his wire-rimmed glasses catching the dim light. He was older than most of his inventory, with hands mottled by liver spots and slight tremors that came with age. "You said you had something unusual," she said. "Indeed." He gestured to the book, but made no move to touch it himself. "This arrived last week in an estate collection. No publication information. No author listed. I've never seen another copy, and I can find no record of it in any catalog." Mara's interest was piqued. Undocumented texts were rare in this era of digitized records and exhaustive bibliographies. "May I?" she asked, already reaching for it. Mr. Dixon hesitated, then nodded. "Of course, though I must warn you, it's peculiar." "Peculiar how?" Mara carefully opened the cover. The pages were blank, every single one. She flipped through them, increasingly bewildered. It's empty." "Is it?" Something in Mr. Dixon's tone made her look up. His expression was unreadable, but there was tension in the set of his shoulders. "What do you mean?" "The previous owner insisted it contained a story. Said it was different each time you opened it." He shrugged. "But then, he was quite elderly. Not all there, if you understand my meaning." Mara looked back at the book, still blank. "How much?" "For you, $50. When she raised an eyebrow at the surprisingly low price for such an unusual item, he added, "I prefer it to go to someone who might appreciate its oddities." Something in his tone suggested he was glad to be rid of it. Later, she would remember this and wonder why she hadn't asked more questions. But in that moment, all she felt was the collector's thrill of acquiring something unique. She paid in cash and tucked the book into her messenger bag, between her laptop and research notes. Mr. Dixon watched her leave with an expression that might have been relief. Outside, the rain had stopped, but dark clouds still hung low over the city. A chill wind tugged at her scarf as she walked the 6 blocks to her apartment building. By the time she climbed the 3 flights of stairs to her door, her mind was already spinning with theories about the book's origins. Perhaps it was meant to be a journal that was never used, or maybe some kind of elaborate hoax or art piece. She placed it on her nightstand, intending to examine it more closely before bed. But work emails demanded her attention, and by the time she crawled under the covers, exhaustion had already claimed her. The book could wait until morning. She woke at 3 a.m. The digital clock's red numbers cast an eerie glow across her bedroom. Something had pulled her from her sleep, a sound she couldn't quite place, like paper being slowly torn, or perhaps fingernails scraping against leather. Her gaze fell on the book. It lay exactly where she had left it, but something was different. The cover seemed to pulse slightly in the dim light, as though breathing. Mara rubbed her eyes, just a trick of the half-light and her sleep-addled brain. And yet, the sound came again, a wet, peeling noise, like adhesive slowly coming unstuck. It was coming from the book. Mara switched on her bedside lamp. The book lay innocently on the nightstand, completely still. She laughed at herself. Dreams bleeding into reality. That's all it was. She reached for the book, suddenly curious to see what kind of stories it contained. The cover was warm, warmer than it should be, and slightly damp to the touch. She opened it. The pages were blank, still, every single one. Mara flipped through them, increasingly bewildered. She turned to the first page again, preparing to close it. That's when she saw something. A small dark spot in the center of the otherwise pristine page. As she watched, it grew larger, spreading outward like an ink stain. No, like a burn mark, the paper crisping and curling at the edges as the darkness expanded. The spot widened, sinking into the page. Not a stain at all, but a hole that seemed to deepen as she stared, revealing not the next page, but something else, something that moved within that growing darkness. Mara dropped the book onto her lap. It fell open to that first page, the hole now the size of a quarter. The burning smell reached her nostrils, acrid and organic, like hair and flesh rather than paper. From within the hole came a sound, a wet, clicking noise, like someone working their tongue against the roof of their mouth. Then a finger emerged, long, bone white. and jointed in too many places. It curled over the edge of the hole, pulling itself upward. The nail was yellow and filed to a point. Mara couldn't move, couldn't scream, could only watch as a second finger joined the first, then a third. They gripped the edges of the hole, stretching it wider, tearing at reality itself. The hole was larger now, large enough for what came next. A hand, then a wrist, slender and corpse pale, pushing through from whatever lay on the other side of that page. The arm that followed was impossibly long and thin, the skin mottled with patches of gray and white, like paper that had been crumpled and smoothed out repeatedly. Veins pulsed beneath the surface in patterns that seemed to have no correlation to any human circulatory system. Mara finally found her voice and screamed. She flung the book across the room, where it hit the wall and fell to the floor, still open. The arm continued to emerge, now joined by another. Both hands planted themselves on her hardwood floor, fingers splayed wide as they bore weight. They began to pull. A head began to squeeze through the opening, twisting sideways to fit through the impossible space. Hair like wet black seaweed clung to a face that remained in shadow, even as it turned toward her. Mara lunged for the door, but her legs tangled in the sheets. She fell hard, cracking her knee against the floor. Pain shot up her thigh. By the time she looked back, the creature was half emerged from the book. Its torso was elongated, ribs visible beneath papery skin that seemed to shift and ripple with each labored breath. Its face remained in shadow, no matter how it moved, as though the darkness itself clung to its features. Only the mouth was visible, a slash of red in the blackness, stretched into a smile that went too far up its cheeks. That mouth opened, impossibly wide, revealing rows of teeth like yellowed paper edges. No actual words emerged from its throat, but somehow Mara felt it knew her name, felt it reaching into her mind, plucking at thoughts she had never shared with anyone. The creature continued to pull itself from the book, its lower half now emerging, legs bent at unnatural angles, folded like origami to fit through the opening that should have been too small to accommodate even a hand. Mara scrambled backward on all fours until her back hit the wall. The creature stood fully in her bedroom now, unfolding to a height that forced it to stoop beneath her ceiling. 8 feet tall at least, its proportions all wrong, arms too long, torso too narrow, neck bent at an angle that would snap human vertebrae. The book lay open on the floor, the hole in its page slowly sealing itself like a healing wound. "What do you want?" Mara's voice was a terrified whisper. The creature tilted its head, the movement jerky like stop-motion animation. Its smile widened until it nearly split its face in half. It made no sound, but its intent was unmistakable. The hungry stillness of a predator that knows its prey is cornered. It took a step toward her, movements fluid yet somehow disjointed, as though its joints operated on principles entirely different from human anatomy. "Go back," Mara pleaded. "I didn't call you. I didn't read you." The creature's head tilted further, the angle just growing more impossible. Its smile remained fixed, but somehow conveyed amusement, a cold, alien sort of entertainment at her fear. It extended one long-fingered hand toward her, as if in invitation. It crouched down, bringing that shadowed face closer to hers. From within the darkness, she glimpsed what might have been eyes. Not two, but many, blinking at different intervals. The creature exhaled, and its breath smelled of old books and decay. A mist seemed to emanate from its pores, colorless but visible in the dim light. The mist drifted toward Mara like tendrils searching for purchase. She swatted at them, but her hand passed through. Where they touched her skin, they burned momentarily before sinking in, leaving tiny red marks like paper cuts. "What are you doing to me?" Panic clawed at her throat. The creature only stared, its many eyes fixed on her with terrible focus as more of the mist flowed from its body to hers. She could feel something moving beneath her skin, traveling through her like parasites. "Stop it!" She clawed at her arms, drawing blood, but the invasion only pressed deeper. The creature straightened up, regarding her with that head tilt again. Its jaw unhinged slightly, the terrible smile widening further as it watched her struggle in vain. Mara lunged past it, making for the bedroom door. Her fingers closed around the handle, but it wouldn't turn. Locked, though she never locked her bedroom door. The creature made no move to stop her. It simply watched, head cocked at that disturbing angle, as she rattled the doorknob frantically. Its eyes blinked in sequence, like pages turning. The message was clear without words. There would be no escape. Mara's gaze darted to her phone on the nightstand. The creature followed her look and smiled wider. It made a gesture, almost gracious, almost mocking, toward the phone, as if inviting her to try. She dove for the phone, fingers trembling as she unlocked the screen. The creature made no move to stop her as she dialed 911. The phone rang once, twice. On the third ring, someone picked up.
"What is your emergency?"
The voice on the other end was flat, emotionless. "Please help me," Mara cried. "There's something in my apartment. It came out of a book. It's..."
"What is your emergency?"
The voice repeated, identical in tone and inflection. "I just told you. Something came out of a book in my bedroom. It's here with me now."
"What is your emergency?"
A third time, mechanical and hollow. A horrible suspicion formed in Mara's mind. She looked up at the creature, which was watching her with obvious amusement, its head now twisted nearly upside down. "What did you do?" she whispered. The creature's only response was to bring one long finger to its lips in a shushing gesture. Mara hung up and tried again, this time calling her sister. The phone rang and rang until voicemail picked up. She tried her neighbor next door, then her boss, then the building superintendent. Each call connected, but the voices that answered were all the same, flat, repetitive, asking the same question over and over.
"What is your emergency?"
She threw the phone against the wall, where it shattered, screen going dark. The creature moved closer, its long fingers reaching for her face, its mouth stretched in that terrible smile, jaw unhinging farther than should have been possible. Its touch was ice cold, fingertips tracing her jawline. The mist flowed more rapidly now, pouring from its pores into hers. It burned like acid, and Mara screamed as it crawled across her face, slithering into her nose, her ears, her mouth. The creature's head bent closer, mouth opening wider, wider still, until it seemed it could swallow her head whole. Its breath was the smell of ancient parchment and mildew. Something was inside her now, coursing through her bloodstream, rewriting her from within. She could feel it changing her, breaking down the barriers between what was Mara and what was other. She caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror across the room. Something was visible beneath her skin, moving like schools of fish just below the surface. Her eyes had darkened, pupils expanding until almost no white remained. "What are you?" she gasped. The creature made no sound. It was fading now, its body becoming translucent, the mist flowing more rapidly from it to her. Its silence was answer enough. It was becoming part of her, and she part of it. Understanding dawned with horrible clarity. It wasn't just invading her body. It was transferring itself, moving from one vessel to another. The book had been its prison. And now, "No," she moaned. "Please." The creature's form was now barely more than an outline. Its many eyes blinked one final time before it disappeared entirely into her. Its absence of speech was somehow more terrifying than any words could have been. She could feel its intent. When she was full, she would seek another victim, and another. The hunger would never end. The last of the creature's essence flowed into Mara, and it was gone. She collapsed to the floor, her body burning from within. Something crawled through her, rearranging what she was, redefining her. She clawed at her skin, trying to tear it out, but it was part of her now. Her gaze fell on the book, still open on the floor. The hole was gone, the page pristine again. Slowly, Mara rose from the floor, her movements strange and disjointed, as though she were learning to use her limbs for the first time. She went to the mirror and studied her reflection. Her eyes too dark, her smile too wide. Something lived behind that smile now, something old and patient. She picked up the book and closed it gently, running her fingers over the leather binding with something like affection. Her reflection smiled back at her in the darkness. No sound emerged, but she didn't need words anymore. She placed the book in her bag. Tomorrow she would leave it someplace public, a coffee shop, perhaps, or a library. Somewhere it would be found. Somewhere it would be opened. The real Mara was still conscious somewhere deep inside, a prisoner in her own flesh. She screamed inside her mind, but her body was no longer hers to command. Something else controlled it now, something that smiled with her mouth and looked with her eyes, but was not her. She could only watch as the thing wearing her skin prepared for morning, as though nothing had happened. The last thing she saw before it turned off the light was the book in her bag, lying in wait for its next victim. The thing that had been Mara tilted her head at an unnatural angle in the darkness. Tomorrow would bring a new chapter. 3 days later, Emily found a beautiful old book someone had left behind her favorite coffee shop. The binding, the cover read in elegant embossed letters. She took it home, intending to read it before bed. After all, she had always loved a good story. And so, dear listeners, we emerge from another dark corner of Carman's Crypt. But remember, the horrors you've heard tonight are merely echoes of the terrors that await in the shadows of your own mind. If you enjoyed your stay in the crypt, why not invite a friend to join us next week? After all, fear is best when shared. Leave a review if you dare, or share your own tales of terror on my social media. Who knows, your nightmares might just become my next story. Until next time, keep checking under your bed. And remember, in Carman's crypt, every fear comes alive, and no one is truly safe. Sweet dreams, if you can still sleep at all.